Okay, so today we're going to be talking about fraction basics. What is a fraction? A number that represents equal parts of a whole. And has a numerator and denominator. So parts of the fraction are the big number is going to be your whole number. Your top number is going to be your numerator. And the bottom number is going to be your denominator. What is the numerator? The numerator is going to be your top number of a fraction that tells the number of equal parts compared to the number of equal parts in a whole. What is the denominator? The denominator is going to be the bottom number of a fraction that tells the number of equal parts in the whole. What is the simplest form? A fraction is in simplest form when the numerator and the denominator have no common factor other than 1. And how do we simplify fractions? You're going to divide both the numerator and the denominator by their GCF, or greatest common factor. A fraction is in simplest form if their GCF is 1. That means that nothing else can go in besides 1. So let's do some together on simplifying fractions. 12 over 16. What can go into 12? What can go into 16? What comes to my mind is 4. So 4 is the GCF, 12 and 16. So we're going to divide by 4 on top and bottom. So 12 divided by 4 gives me 3. 16 divided by 4 is 4. So 3/4 is a simplified version of 12 over 16. So 78 over 56. They can both be divisible by 2. So 78 divided by 2 will give me 39. And then 56 divided by 2 will give me 28. Nothing else can go into 39 or 28 that they have in common except for 1. So that is simplified. Number 3, 28 over 35. Okay. The GCF of 28 and 35 is 7. 7 can go in both. So 28 divided by 7 is going to be 4. 35 divided by 7 is going to be 5. 4/5. And then the last one for this section is 45 over 125. So it could be divisible both by 5. So 45 divided by 5 is 9. 125 divided by 5 is going to be 125. Okay, so that was simplifying fractions. Now we're going to go over what is the least common denominator. Well, least common denominator is also the same thing as really the least common multiple of the denominators of 2 or more fractions. So what are equivalent fractions? Equivalent fractions are when the fractions that name the same number or are of equal value. So you multiply or divide the numerator and the denominator by the same number. So that means whatever you multiply or divide on top, you're going to do the same thing on the bottom. So for example, 10 over 12. Well, I know that 2 can go into 10 and 12, so I can divide top and bottom by 2 to get 5 over 6. So 5/6 is equivalent to 10 over 12. Or I can do 10 over 12 and multiply top and bottom by 2 to get 20 over 24. So 20 over 24 is equivalent to 5/6 and is also equivalent to 10 over 12. Same thing with 6 over 16. What goes into 6 and 16 is 2. So I can divide both top and bottom by 2. So 6 divided by 2 gives me 3. And 16 divided by 2 gives me 8. Or, to get an equivalent fraction, I can do 6 over 16, both top and bottom, by 2. And 6 times 2 gives me 12. And 16 times 2 gives me 32. So 12 over 32, 3/8, and 6 over 16 are all equivalent fractions. Okay, so again, to get an equivalent fraction, you have to either multiply or divide by the same number top and bottom. So find the missing value to make the fractions equivalent. So 3/5 is how many 20ths? So look at the bottom number. So how do I get from 5 to 20? So I multiply by 4. Since I multiply by 4 on the bottom, I'm going to do the same thing on the top. So 3 times 4 gives me 12. So the missing number is 12. So 12 20ths is the same thing as 3/5. Then 4/5. How many, what's the bottom number here that's missing? So on the top I look at, well, 4 times what gives me 80? 4 times 20. And so I do the same thing on the bottom. So 5 times 20 is 100. So the missing number is 100. And then finally 3/4. We have on the bottom 4 times 7 is 28. So we do the same thing on the top. So 3 times 7 is 21. So the missing number is 21. Okay, so that was just equivalent fractions. Now I'm going to flip to the back of my notes. And here we're going to be talking about comparing fractions. Okay, so to compare fractions, I'm going to rewrite fractions with a common denominator and then compare the numerators. A second way you can do this is cross multiply and then compare. But in this video, I'm going to show you the first way. Okay. So let's look at number 1, 3/5 and 7/10. Well, what's a common denominator of 5 and 10? Well, 10 is a common denominator because 5 and 10 go in both go into 10. And so 7/10, well, top number for this one is 7/10, so that's equal. And so 3/5 is how many tenths? So to get 5 to 10, I multiplied by 2. So again, whatever you multiply on the bottom, multiply by the top. So 3 times 2 gives me 6. So 3/5 is equivalent to 6/10. Now look at your numerators. Well, 6/10 or 7/10? 7 is bigger than 6/10. So therefore 7/10 is bigger than 3/5, or 3/5 is less than 7/10. Number 2. So with number 2, it's 7 and 4. They both go into 28 is my common denominator. So 7 times 4 on the bottom gives me 28. So therefore 2 times 4 on the top gives me 8 to get my numerator. And then for this one, 1/4 equals what over 28? So 4 times what number gives me 28 is 7. So I do the same thing on the top. So 1 times 7 is 7. And then I look at the numerators, and 8 is bigger. So therefore 2/7 is bigger than 1/4. All right. So number 3, I want to do, Ray has 2/3 cup of walnuts. He needs 3/4 cup to make cookies. Does he have enough walnuts for the recipe? All right, so 2/3 and 3/4. I got to find a common denominator. Well, both 3 and 4 go into 12. So 2/3 equals how many 12? So if I know that 3 times what is 12 is 4, same thing on the top. So 2 times 4 is 8. So 2/3 equals 8/12. 3/4 is what over 12? So 4 times 3 on the bottom is 12. So 3 times 3 on the top would give me 9. So 3/4 is equivalent to 9/12. Then I look at the numerator. So 9 is bigger than 8. So the 9/12 is bigger. So therefore the 3/4 is bigger. So that means he does not have enough because he only has 2/3, which is only 8/12. He needs 9/12. Okay. So how do I order fractions? Rewrite the fractions as equivalent fractions with a common denominator and then order the numerators. Rewrite answer using the original values. Okay, so looking at this one, I have 15, 5, 2, and 3. Okay, so a common denominator that all of them have that can go in, that comes to my mind, they all have a common denominator of 30. Okay, 15 goes into 30, 5 goes into 30, 2 goes into 30, 3 goes into 30. So I'm just going to rewrite everything with 30 in the bottom. Okay. And so 11 over 15 gives me, if I multiply on the bottom 2 times 2, so that gives me 22/30ths. 4/5 equals, if I multiply on the bottom by 6 and the top by 6, that would give me 24/30ths. And then 3/2 equals, if I multiply by 15 on top and bottom, that gives me 45/30ths. And then 2/3 equals, if I multiply by 10 on the bottom and top, that gives me 20/30ths. Okay? So to rewrite this, I use my order least to greatest. So my least number on top would give me 20, which is 2/3. So 2/3 is going to be first. Okay? And then the next one would be 22 over 30. So that's going to be 11/15. And then the third one would be 24 over 30, which is 4/5. And the greatest one would be 45 over 30th, which is 3/2. Okay, for that one. Now I'm going to let you try this one on your own. So go ahead and try this one on your own. I'm not going to go over it on the video, but try this one on your own. I'm going to give you a hint. Your LCM of all these numbers, 2, 9, 3, and 6, all go into 18. So your bottom number would be 18 for that one. Okay? All right, so moving on to what is a proper fraction? A proper fraction is the numerator is smaller than the denominator. And what is the improper fraction? When the numerator is larger than the denominator. And a mixed number is when a whole number and a fraction. So how to write mixed numbers as improper fractions. So the first step is to multiply the denominator by the whole number, then add the numerator to that product. The result is the new numerator. Then divide. The denominator remains the same. So for example, I'm going to multiply 7 times 5. I get 35. And then I'm going to add the numerator. So this is multiply. And then the top, this part is add. Sorry for the mess. So 5 times 7 is 35. And then I'm going to add the 4. So 35 plus 4 gives me 39 over, and then I use the original denominator, 7. Okay, you try this one on your own. Okay, you try this one on your own. And then for this one, how do we write improper fractions as mixed numbers? So step 1, divide the numerator by the denominator. Step 2, the quotient becomes the whole number and the remainder is the numerator. Step 4, the denominator remains the same. So for example, write it as a division. Top number is goes in my box. Bottom number goes outside my box. How many times does 11 go into 42? Well, that goes 3 times. 33. Subtract. Okay? I have a 9 left over, so I'm going to rewrite it as 3 and 9 over 11. You try number 4 on your own. So this concludes our video for fraction basics. So please review this video as many times as you want to.